What is going on, you guys? It is your boy Al. I am the owner of the Underdog Dynasty Kennel, the founder of UDK Sports Talk. And in today's video, man, I wanted to talk about the recent controversial reports that have now came out following the NFL season. Now, as all of you know, we're going to go over the chain of events that led down this road. But I just thought that it was fascinating that this report came out. And given the state of football and how involved the officials have been in dictating the outcomes of some of these games, it really is concerning, and I felt like I needed to react to it. So please don't forget to like, comment, and sub to the channel. Check off the bell notification icon to become part of the family. With that being said, let's get into the video. So I'm gonna cut straight to the chase, man. I'm not gonna blame any missed call or any two-point play as to why the Rams season turned out the way it did. I'm not gonna sit here and say they aren't Super Bowl champions because of that. The Seahawks earned that right. They beat us in that game, in overtime, and they beat us in the NFC Championship game. So you gotta congratulate the Seahawks fans for them being able to achieve the feat that they did and being the best team in the NFC and in the NFL this year. Now, the reason why I'm reacting to this is because I feel, given the state of football and given how we have these point spreads now put out there by Vegas and how the games are officiated, there has been extremely questionable calls that have been called at very inopportune times that have dictated momentum, that have made the games much closer than they should have been. And in my opinion, as all of you know, if you followed me and you saw my previous videos, especially on Instagram, I am not against letting the players play. But my issue with the officiating is you're either going to call it tight all game long, but don't deviate. If you want to get the calls right all game long, that is fine. Do it like that and don't change up. Now, if you're going to let the guys play, let them play all game long. Do not change it up with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter for you to start saying, oh, we're going to start calling this and we're going to start calling that. No, you either get it right all game long or let them play all game long. All right. And given the fact that we are now in this current state of football where there have been so many questionable calls at the most inopportune times that have potentially decided games, that have swayed the momentum in favor of another team, and have kept these point spreads extremely close. Now, I might be overstepping my boundaries, but there are a lot of things that raise eyebrows, that bring concerns to the NFL. And it's something that I wanted to talk about given this report that I've read, especially how the chain of events happened in that Week 16 Thursday Night Football game with the Seahawks and Rams. Now, for a brief backstory leading up into that game, the Rams and the Seahawks were tied for the first place lead in the NFC West. So this game has serious ramifications of it. The winner of this game was likely going to be the #1 seed and win the NFC West. And as all of you know, leading up into that game, we had a very controversial outing from Puka Nacua where he went live, or he tried to go with streamers to the facility, and there was a whole lot of things going on. He was on the stream, he did some questionable things, and he said the comment that, in my opinion, changed the outlook of the whole season when he decided to complain about the refs. Now, he is a young buck. Even though he is extremely talented, it's not to say that he's not flawed from a maturity aspect. So I believe he needs to grow in that aspect, and that's me being generous and nice of him. I believe that he needs to step it up. If the Rams want to get to where they want to get to, I'm just going to be blunt about it. They got to grow up. And it's not the vets. We all know what the vets bring to the table, and some people have that grit mindset from the rip. But when you look at the comments that Jared Verse said on the pivot, and you look at the actions leading up into that game for Puka Nacua, it does show some maturity issues with this team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go on and ramble about that. That's not what this video is for, but I just wanted to provide context. Now, going into that game, you had those comments that were said about the officiating, and right from the rip, you saw the difference in how they were calling the game for the Rams. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the refs were the reason why they lost that game. No, but leading up into that game, the Rams were the least penalized team in the NFL, which is why it made no sense as to why Puka Nacua would say some dumb stuff like that. But, you know, it is what it is. And you noticed immediately the differences in how this game was officiated. They were quicker to throw the flag. They were quicker to make those judgment calls. And a lot of those went against the Rams. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blame the officials as to why the Rams didn't win this game, but I am going to say that there were some plays that impacted this game. And in my opinion, they swayed the game, and it swayed the momentum for the Seahawks. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say these missed calls were the reason that the Rams didn't win the Super Bowl. No. I give full credit to the Seahawks for being able to accomplish what they were able to this season. But I am going to point out the obvious because I believe that this is uncalled for in this game, what this guy Terry McAuley did. Now, the 3 plays I'm going to be referencing to, and first and foremost, again, I want to get this out there. I put full accountability on the Rams for them not being able to execute at a high level to being able to complete the job in the games that they lost. I'm going to put the onus on them. However, I am not going to be ignorant to the fact that there were some plays that impacted this game and, in my opinion, swayed the outcome of this game and ultimately led to what ended up happening. The Rams having to go on the road, not getting the 1 seed, and having to play in Lumen in the NFC Championship game. So that was the weight of this game, right? And the Rams were leading 30-16 in the 4th quarter and had another one of those vintage collapses that we were known for in the season. Now, the first play I want to talk about is the Terrence Ferguson touchdown grab that was called back on an illegal man down the field penalty. First off, Dedich is pancaking the defender, and it wasn't an illegal man down the field penalty. Nicky Manwari, the reason why Terrence Ferguson was so open was because Nicky Manwari bit on the play fake thinking it was a running play. That's what led to Terrence Ferguson being so wide open. But with that being said, going back to what I said earlier, as a ref, I am good with this, man. You either let the guys play all game long, meaning you don't get involved in it unless it's egregious, or you get it right all game long. All right, and that's going to be key and pivotal towards what I'm going with this take. In my opinion, if you're going to change up that 2-point play later on in the game, doing what Terry McAuley did and making a phone call to the head guy at the headquarters of officiating for the NFL to tell him that that was a lateral pass, I need you to call up and get that penalty right. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that was at the beginning of the game. Yeah, that penalty forced the Rams to settle for a field goal. It should have been a 10-7 game. You see the difference? 10-7, 7-6. Okay, I digress. The second play, the Rashid Shaheed punt return touchdown. As all of you know, that was the biggest momentum shift in the whole game. It swayed the entirety of the Seahawks season, believe it or not. But the reason why I'm talking about that play was because even though we understood the magnitude and the significance of that play, we failed to forget that on that punt return, there was a missed holding call on Darian Kendrick in which Seattle was actually holding him and they didn't call it. So again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. That ended up leading to a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. The game ends up being 30-22. Now again, stay with me now. You're either going to get it right all game long or you're going to let them play all game long. If we're letting them play all game long, the Rams at that point, the game was 30-22. It would be 34-22 at that time. Now the big controversial play, the last one, the 2-point play. Obviously, we know how this turned out. It was a very controversial play. At first glance, everyone thought, well, mostly everybody thought it was a forward pass. In my opinion, it was an incomplete pass. I don't believe in that play alone that there was enough to overturn the initial ruling because it was so bang, bang. Now, as you could tell in this play, and I've explained this before, Jared Verse hops in front of the pass. Now, if you look at Zach Charbonnet starting off in the backfield, but he's looking like he is going to attack the ball, okay? So, again, this is a gray area. Is there enough on this play to overturn the call that was initially laid down on the field? Obviously, the ball ends up being, at the time, incomplete. Zach Charbonnet goes to pick up the ball innocently just to give it back to the ref. Everybody is moving on. The game right now is 30-28. Everybody is moving on saying, okay, listen, it is what it is. They're actually getting ready to kick the ball off. Okay, so it's 30-28. Now the Rams at this time, who knows? We don't know how the outcome of the game would have turned out. We don't know. But the Rams would have been up 30-20 at this time when this play occurred. Now, according to these reports, it is sickening at what I read. Terry McAuley reaches out to the head official at the NFL headquarters for officiating and says, hey, listen, I believe that was a lateral pass. You need to check it. Now, listen, they didn't go into details, but this was reported by Mike Florio. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I don't want to present here that I have sour grapes. Obviously, I'm still stinging from the loss that we had. I felt like this was a missed opportunity this season. I felt like this team should have went all the way, and they fell short, but they fell short on their own wrongdoings. And it's frustrating, and it's a rough loss because you saw how the NFC Championship game turned out. All Rams fans can't begin to think about the difference the result would have been had this game been at SoFi. Okay? And had the Rams had the bye week and not had to go on the road. So, going back to this play call now, they say that we're going to change the play call, and it is reported that at first glance, the NFL didn't even want to get involved with it. And it wasn't until Terry McAuley, the rules analysis from Amazon Prime, made a call to get them to look at it as to that being the changing factor and them changing that play call. I'm going to speak for every fan, not just me being a Rams fan. This is going to be every fan here. There is no place for that in this game. If you want to be an official, stay an official. You went and influenced and impacted a controversial call. It wasn't the NFL that made the decision. You decided to go out of your way to make that call to let them know, hey, listen, this is what I saw. And if you were going to do that then, why didn't you do that at the beginning of the game when they missed that illegal man down the field penalty when you said, I don't agree with this here? So you're going to say that then, but at that point, you're going to call the NFL headquarters to let them know, hey, listen, this was a lateral pass. That was completely out of pocket. He deserves to be fired. He overstepped the boundary. Now, if you want to get that call right then, get it right at the beginning of the game. Get it right on the Rashid Shaheed touchdown call. Hey, listen, there was a holding penalty. But now, you didn't want to do that then. So, again, going back to what I said at the beginning of this video, given the state of where officiating is, given the state with how sports gambling has went, given the state at how so many of these games have been decided on these extremely questionable penalties at the most inopportune times that have swayed momentum in the direction of the opposing team. As a Rams fan, I could tell you this, man, and I just had to get this rant out there. This reopened the wounds that happened from that Thursday night football game. Obviously, I'm still sick that the Rams lost the NFC Championship game. But to know that it didn't even come from the NFL headquarters, that it came from this man, Terry McAuley, for them to overturn that play and to give it another look, in my opinion, that just was like the low blow. Like, you know how when you get the extra stomp on top of you in a fight, like that's like the ceiling blow? The Rams lost that game. We ended up losing the game, the NFC Championship game in Seattle, in Lumen Field. And I give all the credit to Seattle, man. Again, I don't want to let this rant get in the way of what Seattle did. This is just me talking from a fan's perspective. And I believe that I can speak for every fan base when I say that this is uncalled for and shouldn't be in the game, period. And this man severely overstepped his boundary. I don't care what team it is. You cannot, you know what that's like? That's like Tom Brady calling a play up on the booth saying, hey, listen, this is what I'm seeing because he's partial owner with the Raiders, calling the defensive corner and letting them know, hey, listen, this is what it is. You got to change it up to go to this defense because this is what I'm seeing overhead. Tom Brady has no fucking reason to get involved with anything they got going down the hill. That's it. Now, that might not have been the best analogy, but that's the only one I could think of on the fly in this moment right now. You decided at this time, Terry McAuley, to influence the game. Now, going back to what I said before, the Puka Nakua's comments. In my opinion, if this man would have just minded his business, stood out the way, they probably and likely don't call those flags or don't change up those plays in those big critical moments. Again, leading back to maturity. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say Puka Nakua was the reason as to why all of this happened. No. But you saw after those comments how they officiated the games. We all know what happened the following Monday night game against Atlanta. The missed PI call on Tutu Atwell. And yes, the Rams played like shit. They had no reason to even be remotely close in that game. But you saw late, Tutu Atwell was getting held, arm bar all the way down. He has one arm available. And the reason why the defender is pulling on his arm is because he just got burnt and it should be a touchdown. But we all know how this ended up turning out. The Rams ended up having to go on the Road Warrior Tour. They almost completed it. Again, I'm not going to sit here, and I know I sound like a broken record, and blame the officials as to why the Rams didn't get the job done. Again, I'll go on to say this. The officials didn't impact us defending Jackson Smith-Njigba and the Seattle Seahawks offense. It didn't impact us in us blowing assignments and leading to blown coverages in our zone coverage. Again, it wasn't impacting the pass rush win rate from our defensive line, who seemingly couldn't get to Darnold with the same level of intensity and the consistency that was needed to win that game. Again, so I'm not going to put that on them. We can even go one step further. The third down play, which ended up leading to the Kobe Parkinson drop late in the fourth quarter. I believe that play, and I said this previously, that was the finishing blow. And I know we're going to go back to the Konate Muntfield drop, and we're going to go back to the fourth down play in which DeMarcus Lawrence makes a great play. And it wasn't a bad play, right? Great play by DeMarcus Lawrence, because Julian Love gets beat. He is beat. If DeMarcus Lawrence does not do what he does on that play, that is a touchdown to Kyren Williams. He was wide open. Now, the third down play to Kobe Parkinson, I need you to understand this. The Rams have ran the ball all the time out of 13 personnel on these short yardage conversions. The reason why I go back to that play, that Kobe Parkinson drop, and as to why I'm not going to blame the officials, is because that play, it took Sean McVay 3/4 of layering up the plays throughout the course of the game to set it up when he called it, he could potentially get a receiver wide open. And sure enough, Kobe Parkinson is wide open. I forget the name of the Seahawks defender. I think it was Josh Uche. Was it Josh Uche or Joby? I'm sorry, I forget the name of the Seahawks defender, who made a great effort to try and get his hand in the way of that ball. Because without that defender making that play, I don't even want to look at the all-22 tape on it. Because Kobe Parkinson, from what I recall, had he caught that ball, probably goes to the house with the coverage contour that they were playing on that play. It was a beautifully set up play that ended up in a drop that could have been a potential touchdown. And if it wasn't a touchdown, it was going to put them at the 1 yard line or 2 yard line for sure. So again, I do not want to go back to the officials and deciding the Rams' fate this season. The Rams have plenty of opportunities to close the deal and host up that Lombardi. None more important than maybe if you would have just traded for the CB1 before the season or traded for the CB1 at the deadline. You're not in this position. Again, put full accountability on the Rams. But going back to that Thursday night football game now, we know how that thing turned out. They overturned that 2-point conversion. Now again, Harrison Mavis misses a field goal. We end up going to overtime. We score in overtime. And then Seattle, they get the tutty. They get the 2-point conversion. Our defense doesn't bow up when they're supposed to. They don't get the big sack when they're supposed to. And we lose the game. And that seals the season. And it sucks, right? Because I had just gotten over this loss. Like, in terms of getting over the championship game loss. Like, I'm starting to move past. But when you see something like this, it just reinvigorates all of the emotions that came that one night when I felt we were robbed. And I believe I can say that globally for all Rams fans. And I know a lot of fans are going to say, well, you can't say that because of the missed PI call on the Saints. Listen, I'm not going to contest you guys there. But in this situation, with a special group, with a team that I felt could have went all the way, this season will forever be marked not by the Philadelphia Eagles collapse, not by the San Francisco 49ers Thursday night debacle. It's not going to be decided on that Carolina Panthers loss in which they should have won, or the Atlanta Falcons game. This season will forever be defined by that Thursday night Seattle Seahawks game in Lumen, in which you had that extremely controversial 2-point play that literally changed everything. It led to the Seahawks getting the 1 seed, them being able to get the bye week, them being able to host the playoffs, and them being able to go to the Super Bowl. Just on the impact on that one missed call. And that, for Rams fans, is how this season is summed up. It is sickening. You know, it takes away from a lot of the good things that we had happen this year. Puka Nacua's emergence into superstardom. Matthew Stafford getting the rightful recognition he deserves for being a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And in my opinion, he's number 1 right now. Davante Adams coming back and redeeming himself, showing that he still can play at an elite level, leading the league in touchdowns. Kyren Williams and Blake Corum becoming a great and nasty 1-2 punch. The defensive pass rush with these young budding stars. All of that getting null and void because we failed to execute at a high level when it mattered most. We failed to get stops. But just to throw a little extra salt in the wound, or peroxide in the wound, here goes that 2-point play. And I believe that Rams fans will forever remember this season being a mid-season because of that 2-point play debacle on Thursday night. Again, I'm going to end the video like this. There is no place in the NFL for that type of nonsense. We already got a bunch of people who believe that these games are rigged. There are already a bunch of fans who believe that this is all scripted. And when you have this come out, this type of a report, that the NFL didn't even decide to make the change, that it came from the rules analysis on Prime, he severely overstepped the boundary. And he should either go back to officiating or he should be absolutely fired, not being able to be eligible to come back to the NFL for the things that that man did. Now, I'll end it like this. Was the call right? Right? The 2-point play. In my opinion, I'm still going to go down with this. You blew the play dead. Zach Charbonnet picks up the ball, gives it to the official. At that point, the play is dead. Again, I'm not going to go on throughout the year when plays are blown dead for the Rams and they already have possession of the fumble and they're already going towards the other direction. Again, but the play was blown dead then, so we're not awarded possession then. Okay, but in this play, you are awarded the 2 points because he picked it up. I'll leave it at that, man. So, again, I never felt like there was anything that should overturn it. You know, if I am being critical of myself, in my opinion, was it a lateral pass? I think there's more of an argument for that. So if leading up to that, okay, cool. You want to call that a lateral pass and it's really a fumble? Okay, I'll give you that. But at the time, when they called it this way, you blew the whistle dead. That was the only reason why the Rams didn't attack the ball. So again, as you can tell, this play was extremely controversial. And in my opinion, the rules need to change. If a team ever has to go through this again, all those fans will be sick. So I really hope they change this rule. And if a ref blows the play dead, the play is dead and there's nothing that could change the outcome of that play. Period. But that's all I got for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and sub to the channel. Check off the bell notification icon to become part of the family. That being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.